Welcome back to another episode of Hail Yes, a Michigan football and basketball podcast by the Detroit Free Press. I'm Andrew Burkle, of course, joined by our Michigan basketball and football beat writer, Tony Garcia. And Tony, another week, another win for Michigan football. It's just that simple, isn't it?
Yeah, no, don't, nothing to see here, sort of, right?
Yeah.
The game was never really I guess you can't say it was never really in doubt because Nebraska always kept it within 10, but Michigan never trailed in that game. And it was kind of like the reverse of Oklahoma, right? Like you always thought Oklahoma was going to win the game, but they just kept making mistakes that let Michigan in it. Michigan did their best Sooners impression, right? Bryce Underwood's fumble, the Hail Mary at the end of the half, Brandon Hillman's penalty. We'll get into all of it, but they just did enough to just keep letting Nebraska hang around. Even a final drive comes down to an onside kick, but it did feel like Michigan was in really good position much of the way.
Yeah, it's just kind of an up and down weird game, right? It was just like the Hail Mary at the end of the half kind of is the perfect moment to describe it. It's like, whoa, that felt like the wrong result, right? But it was still, Michigan put themselves in the position to be there. End of the day, Michigan controlled that game. And, how many times are you going to talk about it on a football podcast? But if you're able to successfully run the ball, more times than not, you're going to win a game. And we'll cover a lot more of that here shortly with some of our quarter or third season takeaways here. We'll get to those in a second as well. But it can just be as simple as that sometimes, right, Tony? If you run the ball, when Michigan has Justice Haynes, who looks fantastic, and Bryce Underwood continues to impact the game with his legs. I mean, if you can control the ground game, it helps you win a majority of football games.
Yeah, well, Nebraska ran 31 times for 43 yards. And before Michigan's final two kneel downs, they ran 31 times for 290 yards. So if you have a 250-yard edge in the same amount of carries, that's what I say. I mean, it's amazing that it was as close as it was because Michigan controlled things in a lot of ways. The only thing they didn't control was time of possession, but that's kind of because they kept scoring so quickly. They come away with a pick, Jair Hill with a deflection, and Cole Sullivan picks it off on a nice diving play. Boom, one play later, Underwood runs it in from 37 yards. Then you got Haynes, who had a 75-yard touchdown right after Nebraska tied it up 10-10. 10 seconds later, Haynes goes 75 yards to take the lead. I mean, we'll get into him more. He is special. And then Jordan Marshall got in on the party, too, on the second play of a drive. So this one took some time, it felt like, compared to the other ones. His first down run on that series, it goes overlooked because of what happened next, but he was wrapped up at the line of scrimmage. And he about threw somebody through the dirt and just stiff-armed him into the core of the earth and breaks it off for 8 yards. I thought that was his most impressive run of the day. And then the next run, he busts for 54 yards and a touchdown. And shout out Greg Crippen, the center, on both of those outside zone blocks, sealing at the first level, climbing to the second level, and just walling off a linebacker to create a massive hole, and neither Michigan's running backs missed it.
It felt like watching, Jason Kelsey for the Eagles or Frank Ragnow for the Lions, where it's just like, oh, those are the moments that no one's going to talk about that totally swing football games, right? And just having that center who's cooking, which Greg seems to be playing some good football lately. I mean, I'm not an offensive lineman, evaluator per se, but from what my eyes tell me, he's making plays and helping blow up some of those holes because it seems that all those Justice Haynes runs kind of have the same feel to him, right? Where it gets solid blocking up through the interior, bang, he's in the next level, makes a guy miss and he's gone because he's got that breakaway speed. It's just, they all kind of look the same. And until Michigan stops doing it, I don't see a way we can consider it unrepeatable, but typically you would not want to be counting on that many long breakthrough runs because that's not typically, when you're talking chunk plays, that's it's 15, 20, 25, 30 yards. Usually they're not 70, 75, 60 yards, right? But, until Michigan stops doing it, we'll just have to take it at face value, right?
Yeah, but I would argue that a lot of these 75-yard runs or 50-yarders, what you would have been maybe 40-yarders with a Blake Corum, right? Someone who can get through the hole, but doesn't have the top end speed to break away. Justice Haynes this last week, I think he was clocked at 21.6 miles an hour. It was the fourth fastest player in college football. I don't know if that was this week or this season, but regardless, he's a blazing speed. And amazingly, Bryce Underwood on his 37-yard touchdown, he topped 21 miles an hour as well. And he was the sixth fastest ball carrier this week. And so, if you got two guys with top end speed like that, then all it takes is getting through that first level, and any of them can go the distance. And so, or is Justice Haynes. So right now he has 4 carries of 50 yards or more, tied for the lead in the nation, 4 through 4 games. Does that mean he's going to have 12 through 12 games? Probably not, but he could have 8. I mean, there could be another 4 or 5 of these coming. I mean, that wouldn't surprise me at all at this point. 12 feels, I mean, like it's just, you don't see it happen. So it's so hard to imagine. I mean, if you had 12 75-yard runs, that would be what, 600 yards on 12 carries? Like, it's just so, it's really tough to do.
But you said if it happens 8 games or whatever, if he has 8 of them by the season's ends, that would be, you could assume, I mean, assuming 2 of them don't happen in one game, that you'd go 4 games without having one of those runs, So when you only have, what did Bryce, 105 yards he finished with passing, when you have 105 yards passing, you need those big plays in another way. So it is flirting with it a little bit, but it's nitpicking at its finest, right? Like, as long as you're still getting the chunk plays, you're getting them. But it certainly is like something you're thinking about is like, okay, that's a little something we're monitoring, right? Because it's not a prototypical football way of moving the ball down the field. And, that's not what you normally see, right? So it's something to keep an eye on, but it's nothing more than a nitpick.
I agree totally. If your problem is, man, we're getting a ton of explosive plays, is this sustainable? Every team has problems. Those are the problems you want. That is the definition of it. And just because they're not going for 75 yards doesn't mean there won't be 25-yard runs, right? Like some of these medium distance runs that can still move the stick, still flip the field, and still help the offense create drives. I mean, really, that was the only thing the offense did not do this game until it really mattered in the fourth quarter when they went on a 15-play, I think it was 77-yard drive that took 8 minutes and 46 seconds. Sharon Moore this morning, we're recording on Monday, this will be in your feed Tuesday, said that watching that is like walking downstairs and like seeing all your presents on Christmas morning, you unwrap them, and then you got one more left. It's like, it just warms your heart to no end that they were able to sort of get that lean at the end of the game. But of the first 8 drives, only one of them went more than 4 plays. Now, a couple of those were those bang, bang, like 2 of them were those quick, just touchdowns right away. So that is a good thing, but it wasn't like multiple first downs. It was like a 3 and out, or maybe you got a first down on the first play and then you went 3 and out. They didn't have multiple first downs on a drive, I believe, or just one drive until the second half. So that's, I think, to your point about you do want some of that classic sustained offense that Michigan had in 2022, 2023, where it's tons of 3rd and 2s, 3rd and 3s, 3rd and manageable, and then you can run or pass. And just, I mean, sort of the Harbaugh special is really what it was.
Right. We should also mention that Mr. 1B himself, Jordan Marshall, 6 carries for 80 yards, 13 yards to carry himself too. So obviously the holes are there. The O-line is doing its job. And at least when I watch, particularly in the interior, the interior O-line seems to be really doing a lot of work and blowing up some big holes there. So yeah, the rushing attack looks great.
That's impressive because Michigan was missing starting left guard and captain Gio Al-Hadi and starting right guard Brady Norton, and Nathan Afobe played at left, and you had Jake Guarnera at right, and this team hasn't missed a beat. And now, in the way that this happened 2 weeks ago against Central, everyone's like, oh yeah, well, it's Central. Who cares that you ran for 300 yards? Nebraska is obviously not Central, but I really don't think this is a great run defense that the Huskers have. I mean, they were giving up 166 yards a game coming into play against Akron and Houston Christian, Houston Baptist, some school that I don't even know about, and Cincinnati sort of had its way with them too. So a great sign. I mean, 290 yards rushing in Big Ten play. You take that 7 days a week and twice on Saturday. But I mean, it's worth noting that I don't think Nebraska has a great run defense. I don't think they even have a good run defense. And so just do it again.
And this is all just stuff we're monitoring, but it does kind of segue into one question I wanted to just hit you right in the teeth with before we move on to some of these trends for the quarter mark of the season. Is Nebraska good? Do we think they're good?
I think Nebraska is Nebraska. I think they're better than the bad teams and not as good as the good teams. So I think they're decent, right? Obviously every season takes its own form, is its own entity, but you don't lose 28 straight ranked games unless you have loser DNA crawling through you. I mean, you got to luck into one, like not even an upset, not even anything. I mean, look at some of the team. I mean, Indiana, which was terrible forever, good now. Illinois, terrible forever, good now. Ohio State never goes through stretches like that. But Washington, right? I mean, Washington has been up and down. Like, they were supposed to take a step back after losing Penix and their run to the national title when Michigan beat them in the 23 season. And I think even last year they had a ranked win. So if Michigan was still ranked by the time they went out there.
I was going to say, is Michigan still ranked when they beat them? That would be the only one I can really remember them knocking off.
Either that one or Illinois. I can't remember. Michigan was ranked those were back-to-back road games. I think Illinois was after the bye. So I think it might have been Washington. I think Washington was the last ranked game. I could be wrong. But in any event, they win big games. I mean, even if you look at programs like who have been in the dumps, like Michigan State, right? Just 4 years ago now, 2021, they had multiple ranked wins in their 2021 season where they finished 11-3 or 10-3, whatever it was. And so even bad programs, right, get ranked wins. Eventually you cycle through. Nebraska hasn't beaten a decent team since 2016. So I'm going to go no, they're not very good. The reason I did pick Michigan in this game to win and cover, but the only thing that gave me like hesitation or trepidation was sort of this Matt Rule year 3 thing. How he turned around Temple, how he turned around Baylor. Year 3 was where everything clicked. And Nebraska's better than last year, but I would stop short of saying they're very good.
Yep. That's kind of just their brand. And what you're speaking to is some of that volatility in college football. One game, you feel like you can beat anybody. In the next game, you could lose to anybody a lot of times for these non-Ohio State level programs. And Nebraska has been consistently right there and just somehow hasn't been able to do it.
Michigan was ranked 10th at Washington. So Washington didn't just have a ranked win. They had a top 10 win. You know what I mean? And that's what I mean. And teams will start ranked, right? And they weren't very good actually, and I'm not just saying Michigan, I mean, all over the country, right? Preseason polls.
Wasn't that Alex Orgy's first start too? Remember that they had to go to, they went to Orgy in his first road start. And then it was like they had lost to Texas, but God, that's weird. I can barely remember them being ranked, much less top 10, but just shows you how much things change over the course of a season, right? Week to week.
And that's what I mean. Nebraska never even ran into a team that happened to be ranked 24th, later fell on their face and went 7-5 and took advantage of it. 28 straight. It's just insanity. So, like I said, my phrase of the weekend was loser DNA. That's my Nebraska takeaway.
Yeah, looking through their schedule here, just to cross this off, they have Michigan State, who won't be ranked, obviously. Maryland, Minnesota, Northwestern, none of them will be ranked. USC at home towards the end of the season, depending on how things go. They probably, I assume they're going to be ranked, so that could be an opportunity. At UCLA, heck no. At Penn State, no way they're winning that. And then Iowa. And I don't think they'll be ranked. So, yeah, there's really only one. They only have basically, you get 2 or 3 chances a year if you have a doable schedule, right? If you're not in the SEC. So it just consistently laying an egg. All right, let's get to some of these quarter mark trends here that you wanted to highlight. So we want to talk about some positives and then some worries about where this Michigan team is standing. So why don't you just kind of run through your positives? We'll bounce them off each other and then we'll move on to some of the worries.
Yeah, well, I think we did a good job sort of setting it up here at first, but it's just that the offense is starting to find its form, right? Bryce Underwood is now allowed, quote unquote, to use his legs or encouraged more to do so, whichever way that was going. Now, I did find something, I'm going to sidetrack myself here, but I'll try to keep it very brief. Sharon Moore, early season, week 1, week 2 was saying, hey, if you run your quarterback, you better have 2, implying that they were trying to protect him. And then today, when we met with him, he was like, yeah, Bryce always had the green light to run. Now he's just really he's seeing it and he's making sure he goes. I just put a pin in that because I don't know which way that was, but whatever it was, whatever reason he was not running, that's not there anymore. He's running. That's opening up things for Haynes, for goodness, Marshall. And that's a good sign to see. The offensive line starting to gel. We talked about it, even with some of these backups, and you're just getting more reps, right? This is Greg Crippen's first year as a starting center. He's looking better. Evan Link is more comfortable on the left side. Andrew Sprague, I feel like nobody's talked about Andrew Sprague. And if you're a first year starting offensive lineman, that's a wonderful thing, right? Because so often you're noticed for the wrong reasons in that type of situation. And so I think that's really good. Justice Haynes is a beast.
Same for Link, Evan Link. I haven't really been noticing him or hearing much about him outside of, the occasional people who've latched on to his poor play last year, right? It's really both tackles have been a non-story so far, which is a huge story.
It has been. And Link hasn't, according to PFF, so always take it with a grain of salt, he hasn't graded out tremendously, but average is 60. And in pass blocking, he's been 66, which is pretty good. And in run blocking, 59.5. So just a tick below average. So, I mean, if you're an average starting tackle, given where he was last year, which was certainly below average, it's steps in the right direction. And he's still young. He's just a sophomore.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't think that's exactly how I felt watching him, right? Like the guy's he's not going to be on any NFL mock boards here looking forward to 2027's draft or anything like that necessarily. But like, he's been fine, which is great when you have the rest of your offensive line and run game is good, right? You'll take that all day with a possible question mark.
No doubt. And Underwood as an element has helped, I think, this offensive line, because I mean, it's just sometimes all you need is the guy on the second level to take a half step, to have, as Michigan likes to say, bad eyes, right? Like you're looking in the wrong spot, boom. And then that just gives you enough time to get your seal, to get your pull, to get to the next level, what have you. And it's really important. Not much more to be said about this, but Justice Haynes is a beast. No Michigan player had ever had 3 consecutive 100-yard games on the ground to begin a career. Not only does he have 4 now, he's also scored a touchdown, at least 1 in each of them. He has more yards than he ever had at Alabama. He's 1 touchdown short of his season, of his career high coming into this year, which was 7, and it's still September. So Justice Haynes, super tremendous. And then we can go to the flip side, like the other side of the ball, which on defense, and I want to high five through the screen. You left me hanging, but how you got to do it. There we go. All right. Because nobody's going to be watching this.
Good podcasting, good audio.
Yes, exactly. But we totally discussed this last week for all of our loyal Hail Yes listeners. Jayshon Barham split time, 27 snaps at linebacker and edge against Central Michigan. And we were like, man, I mean, this guy is just such a difference maker on the defensive line. They're not getting a ton of pressure when they're rushing just 4. They got to line this guy up like almost exclusively at edge, because, and if for no other reason, their linebackers are so good, it just allows you to have another one of them on the field. Sure enough, that's exactly what they did. Every single snap Jayshon took this last week on the edge, and that allowed Hausman, who's always very solid, to feast. Cole Sullivan has just been, dare I say, I would probably give it to Barham. Cole Sullivan is about this close, and also great podcasting. I'm holding my fingers very close together. He's about that close from being my defensive MVP this year. He's been that good. 19 tackles, 12 solo, 3 for loss, 2 sacks, 2 picks, and a forced fumble. This guy is always around the ball. And it's just given him more snaps by letting Barham on the line, and Barham's getting to the line to the second level quicker. And you take him out of pass coverage where he's okay, not great. It seems like a wonderful substitution that they've made. And then sort of my last takeaway here from offense defense is that Rod Moore, he limited snaps, I think maybe a dozen or so. I should have the PFF numbers up. I don't right now in this game, but all the players talked about just a calming presence that he provides when he is on the field. Like sometimes you will overcompensate if you are unsure that somebody's going to be in this spot or that spot, depending on a look. There's none of that. Rod is going to be wherever you are supposed to be on the field for whatever's called. And so he's only going to keep working his way back. That will help that should help this pass defense moving forward. I know I went through a lot, but any of that jump out at you?
No, and that's what kind of was the goal. You throw a bunch at me and I'll see what I feel like countering. Barham, I think that the reason I want to talk about him is because it feels like what we all love about football, right? Where it's like, this guy was kind of not as great as advertised coming in last year. He didn't play his best football, right? And he's obviously talented, obviously a freak athlete. And by kind of trial and error, you end up figuring out that his absolute best skill is in a position he really didn't play before, rushing the edge and just wreaking havoc. And it's kind of like Micah Parsons once upon a time, right? Like he was considered like a more outside linebacker, coverage guy. And then they're all of a sudden like, wait, this guy is an unstoppable force rushing the passer. Why are we not using him there every snap? And it's just like, that's why football is awesome, is because then Cole Sullivan, anybody who's paying attention can see, oh, wow, that guy, he's good at football, right? Like he's making things happen, right? And it's just this mishmash of 11 guys on the field at one time and figuring out who complements who in what spot. It's a cool story. And I think it's going to be one of these stories that we're going to be talking about for the rest of the season. If he continues to rush the passer like he has been, I mean, it's just, first of all, Raiola holds the ball way too long. So they made the entire Michigan defensive line look better by him just holding the ball too long. But the unit just feels like it makes a lot more sense now with Barham coming off the edge and just creating chaos. So that's a huge thing, obviously. Rod Moore, it's going to, Michigan was kind of already pretty solid at safety. So certainly it's an addition you're going to love to take. But yeah, to me, Barham's story really sticks out as something that we're going to be talking about for the rest of the year, really.
I think so. And credit to Michigan's staff being malleable, right? Like a lot of guys will try to make square pegs fit in round holes. But Michigan always says, like, look, we want our best 11 on the field. And
easier said than done.
It is. It's tough to move guys around because you're worried about, does he know what is required of this position when you get this look or you're in this situation? But I mean, it's just it's a very well coached defense. There's no doubt about that. Wink's done an awesome job.
Yep, for sure. Two other quick things we wanted to mention was, Dominic Zapata. He's good. He's still really good. He, there's only 12 college football games a year. So if you have one not so great game or one not so great kick, we all kind of freak out. Still good. Can report. Another thing was that we wanted to talk about, I jotted down just the schedule continues to look more and more favorable, especially once you get past this Nebraska game, right? Like that's in the rear view. That's a W now. Okay. Like there's really not too many landmines left on the schedule where that feels like, Michigan's going to be an underdog. You got the USC game is going to be massive. Like we all know that at this point, but no Indiana on the schedule is looking huge. I mean, they destroyed Illinois, right? So that's looking like a break. No Oregon. No Penn State. So you end the season with Ohio State, but I mean, the schedule looks good, right?
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about it. I mean, you're not going to lose to Purdue. You're not going to lose to Maryland, although Maryland's a little feistier than maybe we gave them credit for.
Yeah, or it was Wisconsin.
I think, as I said in my Big Ten power rankings, I think Wisconsin is just very bad. But hey, they're on the schedule too. So you're going to get to beat them the next time out, right? And then the other two games are, of course, Michigan State. But the reason I'm leaving this one for last, I think sneaky trap game is Washington at home the week before Michigan State. I mean, Michigan does a really good job not overlooking anybody, but I think Washington is pretty good. We're gonna find out a lot more this week when they host Ohio State. We'll get into that in the picks and after the break. But I mean, Washington and Michigan State, I think Michigan should beat Michigan State. Their defense is just a sieve. I mean, it is offensive. It's an offensive defense.
I don't know what happened. Because last year, me and Reiner were talking about it. We watched the early games. They had a million injuries. They got Lions a little bit, right? They're just like by the end of the season, it was like, okay, there's no one left. But early in the season, they would rally to the ball. They look orchestrated. They looked like, they looked to be, at least especially the first few weeks, like, okay, this is a defense that's relatively well coached. They're communicating. They tackle well. I mean, none of that. There's just gaping holes. Obviously, I stayed up for the USC game, right? And I was watching, and just holes everywhere. So their offense is gonna be it seems to be competent, but again, there's another team that like they're certainly not a world beater or a surprise team.
Yeah, no, maybe it's because I don't get to watch any of them. But except this last week, I saw the first half of the game against USC before I went to bed, and I was like, all right, I was like, this is terrible. To the greater point, Michigan's schedule are very doable. They should be favored in every game outside of Ohio State. Even that probably won't be much more than a touchdown, and it's at home. So maybe that's like a 5.5. I think that could be that sort of that devil's number at 5.5. I could see that. And then USC will be close to I think that'll be maybe a pick 'em.
Yeah. Yeah, I think USC, if I had to put my life on the line right now, I'd say maybe USC slight favorite being at home, but we shall see. So maybe like 1 point, right? It's just going to be like really close. We'll see. Okay, so bring me now to the weaknesses. We'll buzz through these a little quicker, and there's been less weaknesses than positives anyways. So what are some of the things you're watching other than the volatility of the rushing attack?
Yeah, I would say the passing game has left a little bit to be desired. I think there could have been they left a lot of meat on the bone, so to speak, this past week, really on back-to-back plays. A perfect double pass setup on the backwards pass to Samaj Morgan, who had Donovan McCulley with nobody within 15 yards of him. That's underthrown, and they can't get what would have been a touchdown even if you're in a wheelchair. Yes.
Are you knocking the passing offense because of a bad throw from the wide receiver?
Okay, I see why it sounded like that. No, I didn't.
I'm giving you a hard time.
I'm not, but I'm just saying. But no, fair. But also, the next play, I think this one you can put on the passing off. I mean, Underwood throws a near perfect ball to Channing Goodwin. Maybe it's 6 inches too far, but a really elite receiver comes down with that ball, right? And Michigan, just outside of McCulley, who hasn't been otherworldly this year, he's been good. But especially in the blocking game, I've been impressed. But he has a little under 200 yards through 4 games, and 3 of those were non-conference, right? So the passing game just not really getting going. I mean, I think Bryce Underwood, nobody, even pundits, would have expected Bryce Underwood would have more than 2 passing touchdowns through 4 games, right? Even not just pundits, but haters, right? That is surprising. And so you would need to, I would circle that. You want to see that cleaned up a little bit.
Not just pundits, but haters. Not just pundits, but haters. That's a fire line.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Maybe Marlon Klein's injury a little bit because he looked so good week 1. They're working him back in. I wonder if he sort of helps open things up. So looking for him to step up. We touched on it a little bit. The pass D has been kind of susceptible. It hasn't really been one guy that's been getting picked on. I mean, actually, true freshman Jaden Sanders, he's been really good. Like, really good. And that was not expected as he's filled in for Zeke Berry. But Jair Hill, couple PIs. I think Jair Hill's given up like 3 touchdowns this year, and he's cornerback 1. And then Brandon Hillman, he's not targeted a ton as that backline safety, and he can hit, but a lot of it actually has been against the linebackers. A lot of stuff over the middle, a lot of some tight end stuff and things like that. So just pass D in general needs to tighten up. The run D is well ahead of it. And I think Rod Moore could help that. And then my last note is there is nothing special about special teams outside of Zapata. Hudson Bahalenbeck has been okay, kind of Tommy Doman levels last year. I'd say maybe a little better because I was really hard on Tommy last year. Tommy was
public enemy number 1 for Tony Garcia.
Yeah. I mean, it was not good last year. It was really not good last year. But so Hollenbeck's been a little bit better than that. But I mean, he had a 23-yarder this game that set Nebraska up at the 37. You just can't, even if it takes a bad bounce, even if it stayed where it landed, it would have been a 37-yard kick.
That bounce was awful.
It was the worst case scenario bounce. It was the worst case scenario bounce. But still, it only went 37 yards in the air if they had fair caught it. That's a terrible punt. And I mean, he's only pinned defense. He did pin Nebraska inside not just the 20, inside the 5 once. So that was a really good punt. But I think he's pinned defenses inside their 20, like maybe only 3 times through 3-4 times and upwards of 15 attempts. And so just not good. There has been literally nothing in the return game. Not one punt return for more than 10 yards, I'd say. The kick returns, it feels like almost after Andrew Marsh fumbled in the first week, they just kind of bottled it up. I mean, there's nothing in any return game. That's the hidden yardage that Michigan used to win a lot. And then they've given up a couple of, this last week, they couldn't wrap up on a punt on punt coverage, and what looked like it should have been tackled for a 1-yard loss was a 20-yard gain. So Nebraska's looking at a 66-yard field instead of an 86-yard field. And that's such a massive difference. And so special teams really has to just get better in every aspect outside of Zapata. And even he has missed 2 kicks. He's not been perfect this year. So that would be, I would say, another notable concern.
Yeah, with a team with a passing attack that's still growing into itself and a freshman quarterback and, some of the other things we've pointed out, some volatility, like we said, special teams and taking care of business on those field goals and flipping the field of the punts is going to be huge. So, all right, that's a good 1/3, or I guess Sharon's been saying 1/4, insinuating that there's a postseason. So wrap up for the first half here. We'll get to our picks on the other side, but just stick with us through this quick break. We'll have some more college football for you. Welcome back, everyone. No Michigan this weekend. which is good news for Tony, considering he's got some plans that it should be lots of fun up north, hanging out, playing some golf. So that's great news for him. But that also means we can focus on some of the other games across the country. And it's a loaded slate, particularly some of the games that we'll get to later in the evening. So awesome college football plus the Ryder Cup. I mean, it's gonna be a great weekend for sports fans. So start at the top. USC traveling to Illinois, a 7.5 point.
I gotta cut you off.
And here
again.
we go again with the standings. You're right. Tony's 12-8. I'm 9-11 on the season. So through 20 games, I'd like to pat myself in the back for getting it back to 9-11 after a 1-5 start. So actually not doing that bad since, but Tony's continuing to be well above 500, as he likes to highlight each week when I forget it for some reason. It's like a mental block.
That's not what I'm doing. That's not what I'm doing. It's a pick segment. We got to reset where we're at and where we're going.
It's literally a mental block for me. I'll admit that. It is. It's a mental block. I somehow forget it every single time.
Yeah, until you go 5-0, and then we're going to start the podcast off with it.
And next week, I'm 14-11. Don't forget to say it.
Yeah, and this week, I'm worried is the week that you get hot because we have so many of the opposite picks.
Yes, I'm taking some chances here for sure to try to flip the field a little bit, unlike Tommy Doman, if you will. So, like I was saying, USC, a 7.5 point favorite on the road at Illinois for a noon start. So literally the inverse of what they had last week with the 11 o'clock hosting a Midwest team on the West Coast. Now this week they're at noon at Illinois. Quick turnaround. What do you think for this one, Tony? Who you picking?
Yeah, and actually technically in Champaign, that's an 11 o'clock start. It's noon our time. That's Central time. So that is.
Oh yeah, I always forget they're on the CT. Yeah,
that is an 11 o'clock start, but it's 9 a.m. body time for USC either way. All right, maybe this is me being stubborn. By far my worst pick of the year. I had Illinois keeping it tight against Indiana. That 53-point loss probably should have counted as 2 against my record, but fortunately they all count as 1, whether it's by hook or by crook. And I'm going to go back to the Illinois well one more time. I think I'm just surprised that the number is this big. You're giving me more than a touchdown at home from a team I still think is good. I'm not going to second guess it. I'm going to think about it, and it might bite me in the butt because what I've said, and I've been 2-0 in my picks that are 7.5. It's like, oh, they're giving you more than a touchdown. Like they're daring you to take them. Like they are setting you up on a silver platter. But I think if Illinois has any chance of getting into the college football playoff, they must win this game. And I don't know if the same is true about USC. Not that they can't get in, but if they lose, their season is not completely over. So I think desperation plays a factor, and you just got to look better than losing by 50. So they don't even have to win. Keep it within a score.
I don't think Illinois is that good. I think that is played out last week. And, what we said about Indiana is that, or at least I said about Indiana in our picks, was that when they're playing similar athletes and similar level of skill, they almost always have won in blowouts in the last few years. When they've played against Ohio State and against Michigan last year, when they had inferior athletes, they barely beat Michigan, which was just a mess at quarterback, and they got crushed by Ohio State. So maybe Illinois is not as bad as they looked, but still, I'm taking the Fighting Illini despite all that, just because of everything working against USC here. We saw the travel, and we've seen it time and time again what that can mean. And USC is coming in on high, coming off that pretty comfortable win over MSU. So I'm going to go with Illinois just because I like the points. 7.5 just felt too high for me considering what's working against them. So let's roll with the Fighting Illini. LSU at Ole Miss is our second game of the day. Tigers are a 2.5 point underdog at Ole Miss. That's correct, right? They're a 2.5 point underdog. Wow. Okay. All right. Who do you like here?
I think I'm going to go with the Fighting Lane Kiffins to get their one notable victory of the season. Grand Rapids, Michigan native, Trinidad Chambliss is now in at quarterback. He's been pretty solid this year, especially in the last 2 games against Arkansas and Tulane. 3 touchdowns, no picks, completing more than 2/3 of his passes during that time. And this is also a fade of LSU. I mean, they needed 5, yes, they generated 5 turnovers against Florida, but they needed 5 turnovers just to sort of put that game away, right? And that was at home, I believe, as well. Now they're going on the road to the Grove, which is a very tough place to play. And I just think how their win against Clemson looks like nothing now, right? I mean, it's just a complete non-factor. And you didn't look great against Florida. So, and then you got Brian Kelly already getting in beef with reporters.
Yeah, he apologized.
Yeah, he did. He always does. So I'm just going to go with Ole Miss.
Yeah, I think I'm just higher on LSU than you are, Tony. I like their defense, actually, surprisingly, which has not been the strength the last few years, continues to play well. And Garrett Nussmeier, our quarterback, is one of, if not the best quarterbacks in college football. So third of all, Lane Kiffin, not exactly a proven big game winner. Usually, like you said, does have one good statement win of the year. Does feel like a decent spot for that. But still, I'm going to take LSU, who I just think is a better team, loaded with talent. And I think they're getting weeks back this week. I saw that we might be back at the linebacker spot there. So it's just a really, it's a toss up, right? And I think the LSU, I like them just a little bit better than you. So I'm going to roll with the Tigers. Game number 3, Ohio State at Washington. This is game, like you mentioned earlier, is going to tell us quite a bit about where the Big Ten is, how good Washington is, how good Ohio State is, because much like LSU's win over Clemson, Ohio State's win over Texas also kind of maybe not as shiny as it was after that game ended because of some of the ongoing struggles for that Texas offense and Arch Manning. So we'll learn a lot in this game. Ohio State on the road at Washington. We saw how tough that was for Michigan last year making that trip. Who do you like in this Big Ten matchup?
I'm going to go out on a limb here, but I'm going to take the Huskies. I'm going with the home team. I mean, we've mentioned that for a lot of the reasons that we've laid out in these recent picks, right? Travel matters. It just does, at least for a few points. The Ohio State's win over Texas, as you said, doesn't seem that great. Ohio State has really been led by its defense this year, to this point, and Washington has put up more than 54 points a game is what they're averaging. And yeah, sure, 70 against UC Davis, but they just put up 59 on Washington State. And Washington State's not a great team. They're not even a good team, but it's a team that has some decent athletes at some positions, right? It's not UC Davis, and they still scored nearly 60 on them. And so you got the home crowd advantage. It's obviously a huge game. It's their Big Ten opener. Damon Williams has been tremendous this year, as I expected him to be. 8 total touchdowns, completing 73% of his passes, for almost 800 yards. Fantastic. Jonah Coleman might be the second best or top 5 running back in the Big Ten. If you want to throw Haynes in there, you want to throw some of the Penn State backs in there. But Jonah Coleman is special. He's already got 350 yards and 9 touchdowns through 3 games. So on the water, West Coast, Ohio State's offense still trying to prove itself, still trying to find its form. There's room for a backdoor cover here. I really wish I was getting 10. I could see this being a 17-point game, and in a bad scenario for Washington, and then a late drive. I'm going to ask them right now to go for 2 if that happens. But I got Washington. Before the year, they were my sleeper Big Ten team, and I'm not moving off it.
Aesthetically pleasing will be the one thing you can say for sure about this game on the water. For Washington, both teams got nice jerseys. It's probably going to be like kind of sun-ish setting type situation by the end of the game. So it's going to be a beautiful game out there. That's for sure. I like Ohio State. Like you said, we kind of don't really know that much about Ohio State, but what we do know is that what do we have to doubt Ohio State, right? Like, for all the reasons that we would say that, like, hey, what do we know about them? You could play that game with any team in college football. You start picking teams apart. Like, you could make an argument against literally any team in the country. Well, they haven't played anybody. Oh, they played them, but that team ended up losing to this team. Once you start getting yourself in that game, sometimes you start overthinking it. And I just think Ohio State's good. So I'm going to take them in the points and think that they cover. And their defense has let up. I was just looking at it here. They've let up 7 points against Texas, 0 against Grambling State, and 9 against Ohio. So they've let up 16 points all season long. So the best answer for a potent offense is a defense unlike Washington has seen all season. So I think that catches them off guard a little bit, and Ohio State plays with the lead. And at that point, they're going to be tough to beat. So I like the Buckeyes to cover the 9.5. Game of the day, probably, although who knows? You can never bet against our last game either. Oregon at Penn State for one of those just weird, feels wrong Big Ten new crossover matches where the Ducks are playing in a whiteout in Pennsylvania. That's a conference matchup, guys. And it's going to be awesome. 7:30 p.m. kickoff. Penn State is a 3.5 point favorite over the Ducks. Tony, based on some of your James Franklin comments, I think I know where you might go with this one, right?
Yeah. Well, and I mean, if you like to fade Lane Kiffin in top 10 games, who is not great, 4-15, how about James Franklin? 3-17 against top 10 teams, or 4-20 if you want to count bowl games. I mean, woof. And 2 of those 3 wins in the regular season came in 2016. He has won, and they play top 10 teams every year, whether it's Michigan, whether it's Ohio State. They always play one of them, often both. And so you can't, and they need to win by more than a field goal. Maybe Penn State can win this game, but big, I just don't know. And I have not been like super impressed with how Penn State has looked this year. I mean, like a lot of their scores end up pretty big. Like all their wins are by 35 or more, but against Nevada, it was 10-0, like midway through the second quarter. Against FIU, it was 10-0 at the half. And then Villanova is an FCS team. Like, this is not basketball, so I don't care what you did against Villanova. Drew Allard does not push the ball downfield. How long have we been hearing about Nick Singleton and Katron Allen? They're very good. They're not Saquon Barkley. I mean, I just think losing guys like Abdul Carter from a year ago, and the safety whose name is escaping me. I mean, just they lost people all over the board on defense. I think Penn State was kind of inflated coming into this year, and I can't trust James Franklin in a big game. So I'm going with the Ducks.
Well, I'd like to officially announce that you've convinced me. I was kind of in between. I had Penn State jotted down, but I was left it up in for my mental last second switch that I probably would do. Penn State, what have they shown us? First of all, their first real test of the year is hosting Oregon after playing some absolute dogs. You want to talk about coming out of the game and get punched in the mouth. That's a whole new level compared to what they've been playing. The environment is what really is the only thing that made me want to pick it. But James Franklin's had that great environment before. And aside from, some wins over that win over Michigan, the Obama game, everyone of course talks about, right? Like that Michigan team wasn't as good as some of the other teams that ended up competing for national titles. There's just the wins just aren't there. So I'm going with Oregon. And I think, especially taking the points, I think the Ducks take care of business in that one. So thank you for allowing me to change my pick there last second.
Yeah. Just don't make it a habit.
Right.
You can do whatever you want.
Last but not least, I'm throwing these questions at you, so I think I can make my change whenever I want here. So Alabama at Georgia, always a fun matchup. Last year's game, even when these two teams weren't quite to the level they've been in recent history, that game was as electric as they get. So hopefully this one's as fun as that. Alabama only a 2.5 point dog at Georgia, which insinuates that they would think that if this game was at Georgia or if this game was at Alabama, they would say that Crimson Tide would be favored, even though they had the really bad loss early in the year to Florida State. So what do you think happens in this one?
I'm a little bit nervous about this one because Georgia, it feels like they kind of got away with one at Tennessee, and Alabama has already had a loss and knows they can't take another one. But I believe both these teams come in off of byes. They should be rested. Georgia's at home. Picking against Georgia at home. I mean, I think they've won something like 30-something straight games in Athens. I mean, I don't have the number off top, but it's a lot. And just it's less than a field goal. Key number. I don't think Ty Simpson has seen a defense like this. And when he did, Florida State sort of made him pay. So Georgia.
I'm going with my gut on this one, which was instantly when I saw it, I'm like, that feels too low. I thought it'd be like 4.5, 5.5, essentially saying, yeah, we think Georgia's a little bit better. They're at home. We'll give them that edge. But this is just saying these two teams are equal. And I don't think that. I think Georgia's a better team and they're at home. So I'm going to take the 2.5 for the Georgia to cover, and ride with the Bulldogs to keep being the Bulldogs. I mean, Alabama's got a lot more to prove at this stage than Georgia does with their current administrations.
Yeah. Fans were talking about they wanted Alabama's coach fired. I mean, like 2 games, like 1 game into the year, right? They were talking about sending DeBoer back to Washington or Fresno State or just getting him out of there. And so I got to see more from the vibes around that program.
Yep, no doubt. All right, folks, that is going to do it for this week's episode of Hail Yes, a bye-week edition. So be sure to stay with us throughout the week. We're still going to have a lot of coverage, not game day coverage, but of course we'll be following the team throughout the week here as Tony's phone continues to ring off the hook. He's got to be he's like Adrian Wojnarowski over here. He's getting so many calls. We'll, of course, be back next week again, and got the episode out a little bit early this week because for some inside baseball here, editing schedules essentially. So we had to get it out there today, recorded Monday for a Tuesday post. So just stick with us and read all of Tony's stuff and Sean Windsor's stuff and every other Michigan thing that we do. Thank you to our editor, Bill Bradley, who is our sports editor. Of course, Robin Chan, who takes care of editing these podcasts, who moved his schedule around Tony. I forgot to tell you, he moved his vacation time around to help us out. So shout out to Robin as always. And
the king.
Yeah, absolutely. And last but not least, Nicole Avery Nichols, who is the person who makes it all happen for us here. So thanks to everybody for listening, for making it this far. And we'll talk to you guys next week for a preview of Wisconsin.